Are there any senators who have not yet voted who wish to change their vote? If not, on this vote, the yeas are 85, the nays are 11. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn having voted in the affirmative, the motion is agreed to.
Mr. President.
Senator from California.
Mr. President, I just want to thank colleagues. This is a tremendous vote here to move forward with one of the most important jobs bills we could really do in this session, because we're talking about protecting 1.8 million jobs and the possibility of another 1 million jobs being created through an expanded TIFIA program which leverages local funds at very little risk to the federal government. So this is a good vote. I want to take this opportunity now to thank colleagues on both sides of the aisle, but also to thank the over 1,000 groups out there, everyone ranging from left to right and everything in between, and from workers, organizations, to businesses, to the Chamber of Commerce, to the AFL-CIO. It's rare that we can walk down the aisle together. But now the true test comes. We have a lot of work to do to complete this legislation, to make it real, to give that certainty out there, get those jobs going. We have a lot of work to do. We have the Banking Committee, which under the able leadership of Senators Johnson and Shelby have a title we have to add. We have to add a title from the Finance Committee. We would like to add the title from the Commerce Committee. Then we would have all of the 4 committees represented in this legislation. And then we can move and get a strong vote, get into the conference, and I have to say, tell the House side that we have a truly bipartisan bill that deserves their consideration. But if we start seeing amendments that go to issues that are unrelated to this, the hot-button issues of the day, the issues where we have the ideological divide, we're going to slow this down. So I guess I'd like to say to my colleagues in the Democratic side and the Republican side, please do not mess up this bill and load this bill down with extraneous matters. We're very happy to look at germane amendments. Senator Inhofe and I were ready to look at those. We've made an agreement that if we don't agree, we're going to oppose it. We're working together. But extraneous matters don't belong on this bill unless they have overwhelming support and they are not controversial. And, you know, I'm very hopeful, but I've seen bills come to this floor and get loaded down, and at the end of the day, the American people lose. And we cannot afford to lose this bill. I want you to imagine 15 Super Bowl stadiums, and imagine in your mind's eye what it looks like. And all of those 15 Super Bowl stadiums, every seat is filled. And every seat is filled with a construction worker. That's how many construction workers are out of work, more than 1 million. So we cannot fail these workers. We cannot fail these businesses. These are good jobs. The housing crisis is not yet behind us. We have a long way to go. Construction there is slowed down. So we need to make sure that our construction workers are back on the job. We need to make sure we fix our bridges that are crumbling. We need to make sure we keep goods moving. You know, this is a 21st century economy with an infrastructure that is not keeping up. I want to take a moment to thank again the members of the Environment and Public Works Committee. Senator Sanders, who's in the chair, is a very important member who is focused like a laser beam on jobs, jobs, and jobs. And he knows, as I do, we didn't get everything we wanted in this bill, not by a long shot. But we know that there are times that you have to put that aside for the good of the people so that we get something done. And something done here is protecting 1.8 million jobs and creating up to 1 million new jobs with our expanded TIFIA. So, Mr. President, I want to thank you for your hard work on getting us to this moment. I want to thank Senator Inhofe for his amazing cooperation, Senator Baucus and Vitter and all the members of the committee, Senators Johnson and Shelby of Banking, Senator Rockefeller, who worked so hard with Senator Hutchinson and we hope will resolve the outstanding issues in commerce, Senator Baucus, who worked with Senator Hatch, and we did get a good finance piece. And we are so ready to go. And so we are going to wait to see whether our colleagues on the other side will insist upon 30 hours going post-closure, or whether they yield back that time and allow us to get started on the amendment process. So at this moment, I'm going to put in a quorum call, note the absence of a quorum, and hope that we can quickly move to amend this bill. I note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll. Mr. Akaka.
The Senate just finishing a couple of votes. As we heard from Senator Boxer, senators voted to move forward with debate on the surface transportation bill. A summary from Congressional Quarterly says that the finance portion would extend through fiscal 2015 excise taxes that finance the Highway Trust Fund, which pays for the bulk of federal surface transportation projects. The Senate also confirmed Kathy Ann Benchavengo as a judge in the Southern District of California. We're covering the Conservative Political Action Conference being held here in Washington for 3 days, starting today. A session on the 2012 elections will be live this afternoon on C-SPAN, starting at 3:45 Eastern. We'll hear from Herman Cain and Senator Rand Paul. And if you're on Twitter, you can get the latest schedules for the 3 C-SPAN TV networks by following C-SPAN Now. The Senate this afternoon voted to move forward with debate on a 2-year, $109 billion surface transportation bill. The vote was 85 to 11. Today, the Pentagon is recommending to Congress that women be allowed to serve in more jobs closer to the front lines. The change would open up about 14,000 additional jobs for women. The Associated Press writes that according to defense officials, the new rules are expected to continue the long-held prohibition that prevents women from serving as infantry, armor, and special operations forces, but they will formally allow women to serve in other jobs at the battalion level, which until now has been considered too close to combat. In about 20 minutes from now, at 3:30 Eastern Time, we'll have live coverage of the defense briefing with that announcement. We'll have that on C-SPAN 3. We've been seeing some tweets talking about the Conservative Political Action Conference. There, Representative Mike Pompeo saying he's looking forward to that. We have 3 days of coverage of CPAC starting today. Our afternoon coverage will be on C-SPAN with Herman Cain and Senator Rand Paul. And that starts live at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on C-SPAN. The U.S. today reached a $25 billion deal with the nation's biggest mortgage lenders. The deal requires 5 of the largest banks to reduce loans for about 1 million households at risk of foreclosure. The lenders would send about $2,000 check to about 750,000 Americans who were improperly foreclosed upon, and the banks would have 3 years to fulfill the terms of that deal. President Obama is going to speak about the settlement at 3:30 Eastern Time. That's at about 5 minutes from now. We'll have live coverage on C-SPAN. There was a procedural vote here in the Senate earlier allowing the chamber to move forward on debate of the surface transportation bill. Congressional Quarterly has a story about what's happening in the House on their version of the legislation. House Republicans say their surface transportation bill would mean double-digit increases in highway funding for many states compared with past years. According to charts distributed by the GOP just before the bill was marked up last week, at worst, no state would receive less than what it gets now in highway formula dollars. In fact, the chart shows that some states would see significant increases. The highest would be Kansas, which would realize a 37% funding boost. But House Democrats have sent around a separate chart that shows that all but 5 states, Kansas, Maryland, Massachusetts, and Nebraska, also Wyoming, would lose highway funding. That in Congressional Quarterly. A reminder about the Pentagon briefing that is just getting underway now, live on C-SPAN 3. The Pentagon recommending to Congress today that women be allowed to serve in more jobs closer to the front lines.
President,
The senator from Alaska.
I come to the floor today with a
The
simple
Senate is in a quorum call.
ask to vacate the quorum call.
Without objection.
Madam President, I come to the floor today with a simple message about our economy. I know we're in the process of our transportation bill, and the chairman of the committee may come out momentarily, so I'll yield when that moment happens so we can keep that process going, because that bill is about jobs, creating jobs and infrastructure investment. We've made incredible progress, and we continue to make incredible progress when you think about 3 years ago and where we are today. Now, I know some in Washington like to focus on the scare tactics and how bad things are, how they could be worse if we continue on whatever path they think we're on. But the fact is, you just have to look at the recent information, not produced by a bunch of politicians, but by other people looking at the economy or investing in the economy or participating in the economy in a pretty direct way. One statistic that's an incredible chart, when you look at it, it speaks for itself, really, when you look at it. We've had now, just prior to 2009 and a little bit after, we had about 8 million jobs that were lost. We've now had, and actually this says 22 months of consecutive growth. We've actually had 23 months of consecutive growth, and this number that says 3.2 is actually closer now to 3.7 million new jobs in our economy since the Great Recession started in early '09. And again, I know people come down and they say, oh, it could be better. I don't know about you. This was bad. This is better. Can we always do better? We always strive. That's the American dream. Always strive for a little bit better, trying to do more as we move on. But there is no question the good news and the job losses are diminished and now gone. Job gains. And this is private sector job gains, which is very important. And more importantly, the underlying issue of the job gains are small businesses. If you watch the data this last month, when the unemployment rate was estimated to be a little bit higher, but it actually came out at 8.3, lower than almost every economist thought. And all you had to do was look underneath the data point. And the data point was very clear. Small businesses were hiring. They are the backbone of this economy. If they're hiring in December, January, in months when people expect, in January especially, the economy to start slowing down, what they're hiring for is because they see the future and they see increase in sales and the potential. And so, again, I know we hear people say, oh, it's not as good as it could be. I don't know about you, but 8.3 is better than what everyone figured it would be. Do I want it lower? Madam President, do you want it lower? Of course we do. But the trend lines are clear. We also had a 4-year low in U.S. jobless claims, again, boosting spending in our economy. Consumer confidence, an article in CNN in late December, consumer confidence shoots higher again. Why is that important? The more consumers are confident about the economy, the more they engage in the economy. An interesting one is how low refinancing rates are. 3.75%, 3.875%, unbelievably low. But people are still a little hesitant. But when you start looking at the data points in the last few weeks, especially I think one came out yesterday, more and more people are refinancing. 21% increase last month, refinancing. Why is that important? Again, consumers feel confident, the rates are strong for them, they can get a better rate on their home. Net result, more money in their pocket for themselves, to spend on their family, on whatever they want to buy, vacations, the new remodel job they want to do, the kitchen they've been holding off and fixing up, or the fence that's tipping over a little bit. Now they're going to hire a small contractor to fix it. Consumer confidence is on the rise. Again, we'll hear it's not good enough. Well, yes, but it doesn't mean we're done. We got a lot of work ahead of us, but we have done incredible things. Home builders, in an AP article February 3rd, just last week or so, home builders see stable housing market. Now let me repeat that. Stable housing market. Most people say, well, it's not a growing housing market. No, but before, it was diving. It was sinking. It was disappearing. Stable is good, because when you go from stable, the next result is move to the next level, growth. GM, automobile industry, and I know I talk about this one a lot. 3 years ago, flat on its back. People said it's not going to survive, let it go away. Today, GM, according to Forbes, not a very liberal magazine, but Forbes, January 19th, GM #1 in the world. #1. Why is that important? They are hiring more people from all kinds of ranges of salary. Their secondary facilitator suppliers are hiring more people. People who ship those cars are hiring more people, again, moving forward. We've seen manufacturing. Actually, in the Budget Committee a couple of days ago, Fed Chairman Bernanke was surprised by the strong growth in manufacturing, which, again, a few years ago, people would say manufacturing, we're never going to get back to our days. Again, growth. Industrial suppliers power up sales. Wall Street Journal, January 24th. U.S. state tax revenues, why is this important? Because that shows sub-economies within states, within communities growing. U.S. state tax revenues returned to pre-recession levels. CNBC, December 8th. Again, stronger economy. And I will say, back in my home state, we're making progress on the Chukchi and Beaufort Sea, huge potential oil and gas development, 26 billion barrels of known recoverable oil today. I think it's a lot higher, but that's what we know about. Could provide and generate, once in production, 30,000 jobs, millions in payroll, not just throughout Alaska, but throughout this country, because that's U.S. oil for U.S. consumption and utilization, or export if we're in the business of selling it. But the point is, it is jobs for Alaskans, jobs for Americans. This month, Shell got its final air permit for drill ships, one step closer to exploration this summer. There's no question in my mind that we're going to make that happen. 3 years ago, people told me we're never going to do anything in federal waters. We're never going to develop our resources in Alaska that are in federal hands because the bureaucracy, the regulation, the laws, the rules don't allow it. Well, I stand here today and tell you after just 3 years, National Petroleum Reserve, Chukchi, Beaufort, billions of barrels of oil are in exploration and or development. 3 years. They are right. The last 30 years, we've had a lot of sluggish opportunity in that field. Today, it's moving forward. In 3 years, new activity. Powerful for our country from a national security perspective, but also from an economic security perspective. We know ConocoPhillips, again, as I mentioned, the National Petroleum Reserve has now received its permit to move forward, and they hope to start developing in 2013. In Alaska, mining, another, again, in 2010, investments in Alaska's mining exploration totaled more than $264 million, a 47% increase, and one-third of the total spent on mining exploration in the U.S. overall was in Alaska. There's a new gold rush in Alaska with continued increase in gold prices, placer mining applications, general submitted by small family-run operations rose from 350 in 2005 to over 580 this year. Alaska even has a reality show called Gold Rush. Alaska, on exports, Alaska topped over $5 billion in exports in 2011, and China is now our #1 top trading partner. There are liquefied natural gas opportunities in the Asian market that we're exploring, and can assure you Alaska companies have the strongest interest in moving forward. The good news is spreading across this country, but our work, as I said, is not done. We must continue to build on this progress and secure long-term economic stability that will protect our middle-class families and support our small businesses moving forward. We must address the deficit. Unemployment is still too high. It's better, but it's still too high. And our housing market is still a little weak. The Europeans' economic situation remains uncertain, and we continue to depend on unstable sources of foreign oil. That is why we must move forward on an agenda that will continue to strengthen our economy, protect the middle-class families, and support small businesses, including extending the payroll tax cuts, unemployment insurance, a true energy plan that includes domestic oil development, tax reform to protect the middle class, rebuild this country's infrastructure, and strengthen our housing market. We can and must improve our economy and address long-term fiscal challenges at the same time. Even with hard work ahead, there is a lot of reason for optimism. We are moving in the right direction. We are creating jobs. We are turning this economy around. Just last week, and I'll end on this note, I spend time looking at every business publication, reading what's going on, not just from a global perspective, but companies themselves. And when you see headlines, again, from the Wall Street Journal, jobs power market rebound, unemployment dips to 8.3% on broad gains, Dow highest level since 2008. Some people say, well, the market, it's hard to gauge that. But if you're one of those people, put a little money aside for your retirement, maybe a 401k or your IRA, or you have a little money set aside for your kids to go to college. In 2009, it was a sad year. You were thinking you're going to have to work a lot longer just to make up some of that money. Today, the market is double what it was then. If I would challenge people to take their 09, March, April statements, if they had an education account for their kids or an IRA, and compare it to where we are today. It is better. Can it be better than it is today? Absolutely. And that's what we're going to continue to strive for. So again, Madam President, I'm going to continue to come down to this body, to this floor, talk about this great economic news. I know, people want to see the worst in things. I think what's made this country great is we see the best in things. We see what the opportunities are. We take advantage of them. We try. We risk a little bit, like the auto bailout and the cash flow clunkers. We took a little risk. We walked the road alone. Today, all that almost all paid off, and guess what? A thriving industry providing jobs all across this country. So, Madam President, we have a lot to be proud of and a lot to look forward to. We just got to keep on the path, take a little risk once in a while, push the envelope, and bank